The rebellion has now begun. The Labour Party probably thought over the weekend that they had gotten away without doing a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. They thought, after that big vote on Wednesday, it's all died down, it's out of the news cycle now, everyone will move on and completely forget about it. But oh no, it is back in the news again today because we have had Sarah Champion, who is particularly important because she is the MP for Rotherham, which, as you will know, was a major hotspot for grooming gangs. She has done a U-turn and she has gone against Keir Starmer. She's now calling for a national inquiry. So she put up this 5-point plan for addressing child sexual exploitation and abuse. And you'll see there, point 1, she does want the government to go ahead and implement the recommendations of that ICSA report that Keir Starmer keeps talking about. But she does not think that implementing those recommendations cannot be done at the same time as a national inquiry. So you'll notice point 3 here, she's asking for a national inquiry, but a locally led one. So let's have a little closer look at what she had to say here. So she points out that local inquiries do not have the power to compel witnesses, nor would they satisfy the public concerns of cover-up. There needs to be a national Telford-style model which is nationally resourced and victim-centred. So there we go. Sarah has decided that she thinks we should have a national inquiry, and she makes a very important point there that local inquiries just do not have the statutory powers to force people to turn up that need to be held to account. I think it'd be a great shame if we have a whole load more local inquiries go on, but in those inquiries they just cannot get the people to turn up that need to be held to account, that need to be exposed for their failings in dealing with this problem. This is going to be a big blow for Keir Starmer because it's going to be quite difficult for Keir Starmer to turn around to not just any MP, but the MP for Rotherham. She should know better than Keir Starmer on this issue, given it's happening in her constituency and it is close to home for her. It's going to be very difficult for Keir Starmer to turn around to someone like her and say, you don't know what you're talking about, love. It's going to be a difficult one for him. So she says nothing less than a national inquiry into the failings of those in authority to prevent and be accountable for their failings would restore public faith in the police and local councils. Now, this is a U-turn from her because previously she was against a national inquiry. Just last week, she said an inquiry would mean another 10 years of waiting, but clearly she's been brought round to the argument that an inquiry does not have to mean that action is put on hold. It doesn't have to mean that the ICSA recommendations cannot be implemented. We can do both at the same time. Now, she's not the only one that seems to be changing her mind on a national inquiry, because we have the MP for Rochdale is also somewhat calling for a national inquiry. We'll have a closer look at his comments at the second. Paul Waugh, I don't know how you pronounce his surname, but we're going to call him Paul. He said to the BBC that he would support an inquiry if it was supported by victims and didn't interfere with live police investigations. So here's Paul, and let's have a closer look at what he had to say. So he said, I'm not against a national inquiry, but it has got to have some key caveats. So he hasn't said, I'm openly asking for a national inquiry, but he says he's not against it, alluding that he'd be happy for one to happen if it had met his certain requirements that he lays out here. So he said, first, it needs to be supported by victims because they are people who have told their stories, and it took a lot of bravery to tell their stories. They fought for justice for many years. Are they going to have to re-experience their trauma every time they explain this? They have done this time and time again. He also said an inquiry should not cut across live police investigations. So we've got Sarah Champion, MP for Rotherham, saying she wants a national inquiry. MP for Rochdale, again, another key grooming gangs hotspot. He's now seeming quite open to the idea of a national inquiry. And we had Andy Burnham also defying Keir Starmer and calling for an inquiry. He's calling for a limited one, but he is calling for an inquiry. So a lot of key figures turning against Keir Starmer. It's going to be quite difficult for him, as I said, to respond to people who are MPs for these specific areas, Rotherham and Rochdale. It's going to be pretty hard for him to say to the MP of Rotherham, you don't know what you're talking about, when Keir Starmer, he lives in London, whereas she lives right in the heart of it. So let's see what happens. Will Keir Starmer give in to the pressure and eventually launch a national inquiry? Is he going to stand by his guns and keep on refusing? Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen. Thank you very much for watching.
Still watching? Well, I've got a quick ask for you. Recent UK, we're fighting the woke brigade and inspiring young Brits, but we need your help to go bigger. We're hosting a fundraiser and would love you to sign up and share the link on the big day. It's easy, it makes a massive impact, and there are prizes for top fundraisers. Click the Google form in the description to join us. Cheers very much. Let's keep going together.